I never thought the deepest wounds in life would come from the person I held closest. 01 after the company's quarterly meeting that day, I dragged my exhausted body home and collapsed on the sofa, not even bothering to take off my suit jacket. For the past 3 months, I had poured nearly every ounce of my energy into the River North Landmark Tower project, a new centerpiece for Denver skyline. As the founder of Lawson Construction, this project wasn't just about the company's future. It was the continuation of my dream. Claire walked over with a glass of water and placed it gently on the coffee table. She was wearing a pale blue loungewear set, her hair casually tied up, revealing the elegant line of her neck. This was the picture I knew best. In our 10 years of marriage, she had always been this gentle, this considerate. "How did the meeting go? Was it smooth?" she asked, sitting down beside me, her hand rubbing my back softly. I shook my head, my throat tightening. "The project's gone." She froze for a moment. "What do you mean?" "The board made a last-minute decision. They gave lead on the River North project to Ethan." I rubbed my temples. At the final vote, the Sullivan Group, the second-largest shareholder, suddenly changed their position and backed him. Mentioning Ethan Vance left a complicated knot in my stomach. He was my college classmate, a close friend for years, and now my partner at Lawson Construction. We had built this company together, side by side, like brothers. The most bitter irony was that the Sullivan Group was Claire's family company. "That's impossible," Claire said, putting down her glass. "My father promised he would back you completely." "It was you," I said, looking directly into her eyes. "At the meeting, you were the one who cast the deciding vote for the Sullivan Group." The color drained from her face. Her lips trembled slightly. "Michael, you're mistaken. There has to be some kind of misunderstanding. Bob sent me a text during the meeting with a picture." I pulled out my phone, opened the message, and held it out for her. "Why would you do this?" In the photo, Claire stood in a sharp business suit at the voting podium, the placard in her hand clearly displaying the word opposed. And not far behind her, Ethan Vance was looking at her with a smile on his face. She took the phone, stared at the screen for a long time, and finally sighed. I just felt that Ethan's proposal was more innovative, more valuable to the city's urban planning. It was a business decision, Michael. It had nothing to do with us personally. 7 years of my life, Claire. You know what this project meant to me? My voice trembled. And you, my wife, betrayed me at the most critical moment. "Don't use a word as strong as betrayal," she said, her brow furrowed. "I simply made a professional judgment." "A professional judgment?" I let out a cold laugh. "Then why didn't you discuss it with me beforehand? Why did you and Ethan talk privately for so long after the meeting? Bob said you two looked very close." "What are you implying?" Claire's tone suddenly turned icy. "Are you suggesting there's something going on between me and Ethan? He's your best friend, Michael. Don't forget that. I just don't understand why you would side with him instead of your own husband." She stood up, looking down at me. "Michael, I never realized how small-minded you could be. I supported Ethan because his plan was objectively better. If you're going to let a professional rivalry poison our marriage, then that's your problem." She turned and went upstairs, leaving me alone in the living room. Rain began to streak down the windows outside, each drop a tiny, sighing sound against the glass. I stared at the water on the coffee table. Its calm surface reflected the ceiling lights, just like the placid surface of our 10-year marriage. In that moment, a terrible thought took root in the back of my mind. What was hiding beneath that deceptively still water? In the days that followed, Claire was noticeably distant. She left early and came home late, frequently using work as an excuse to avoid me. I tried to convince myself it was just a small disagreement, a product of professional stress. But the more I replayed the details of the board meeting in my head, the stronger my suspicion grew. Finally, on a Friday evening, Claire told me she had a business trip over the weekend to scout a new project in a neighboring city. I was in my study organizing files when she told me. "When do you think you'll be back?" I asked casually. "Sunday night or Monday morning," she said, leaning against the doorframe, her fingers unconsciously toying with the hem of her sleeve. "Do you have any plans for the weekend?" "Probably head into the office. Rework the strategy for the River North project." "Michael," she paused. "Sometimes letting go is its own kind of wisdom." I looked up at her. Her eyes flickered away from mine. "Are you talking about the project?" "I'm saying you shouldn't get too attached to winning or losing any single battle. She walked over, gave me a light kiss on the forehead, and then turned to leave. The kiss felt different, like it carried a hint of farewell. Watching her walk away, I suddenly realized it was time to face the cracks that had been forming in our marriage. After she left, I called Bob. 02 on Saturday morning, I sat in a coffee shop, waiting. Bob arrived 10 minutes early. Now, in his 50s, Bob Miller had been my father's right-hand man and was now my personal assistant. He was dependable, thorough, and the one person I trusted completely. "Mr. Lawson, here's the information you requested," he said, handing me a manila envelope. I opened it. Inside were records of Ethan and Claire's movements over the past few months, along with a few photos. In the pictures, they were laughing together over dinner, attending events, looking far more intimate than mere colleagues. "What do you make of it?" I asked him. Bob hesitated. "Sir, my job is to report the facts, not to draw conclusions." "But, just say it." I looked into Mrs. Lawson's supposed business trip. Her travel itinerary matches Mr. Vance's exactly. They both booked flights to Aspen, and the Sullivan Group has no active projects in Aspen. My fingers trembled slightly as I forced myself to remain calm. "Keep digging. I want to know what they're doing there. If you can, get someone to follow them." "It's already been arranged," Bob nodded. "But, sir, are you sure about this? What if it turns out to be a misunderstanding?" "I just want the truth, no matter how brutal it is," I said, staring at my blurred reflection in my coffee cup. "It's been 10 years, Bob. Claire and I have been together for 10 years. If there's something wrong with my marriage, I have a right to know." That evening, I was home alone, looking through our wedding album. In the photos, Claire's eyes were full of laughter, her smile so wide it looked like she held all the happiness in the world. We had been together since college, building a life side by side. I once believed our love was unbreakable. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Bob. "Sir, I found something significant. Mr. Vance owns a private villa on the outskirts of Aspen. It was built 10 years ago, but the ownership is hidden through a shell corporation. Mrs. Lawson is there now. 10 years ago, the same year Claire and I got married." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. A voice inside me screamed to stop, to go no further. Some truths, once uncovered, could never be buried again. But another voice pushed me forward, whispering that if I didn't find out, I would live the rest of my life in a lie. On Sunday at noon, another message came from Bob. "Mr. Lawson, I think you need to come here yourself. I found something difficult to describe." I was in my car and on the highway to Aspen immediately. 3 hours later, I met Bob outside Ethan's villa. His face was grim, his eyes filled with pity when he saw me. "Sir, you need to prepare yourself." I nodded, following him to a cluster of dense bushes in the backyard that offered a clear, concealed view of the house. A professional camera with a long-range lens was set up on a tripod. Bob gestured for me to look at the photos he'd already taken. The first image made the world spin. I felt my knees buckle, and I grabbed a tree branch to steady myself. In the photo, Claire and Ethan were sitting on a bench in the villa's garden, surrounded by several children, their ages ranging from about 8 or 9 down to a toddler. They were laughing, interacting like a family, enjoying a perfect weekend afternoon. "There's more," Bob said quietly, flipping to the next picture. This one was even clearer, shot through a large glass window into the living room. I could see at least 10 children of various ages. The oldest looked to be about 9. Claire was holding the smallest one, who couldn't have been more than a year old. Ethan stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder, the very picture of a proud father. My world shattered. 10. My voice was a raw whisper. 10 kids. Bob nodded silently. "Based on my preliminary check, the oldest was born just under 10 years ago, right before you and Mrs. Lawson were married. 10 years ago, while I was standing at the altar, pledging my life to her, she was already carrying his child. And for the next decade, right under my nose, they had continued their relationship. And had 10 children. A wave of nausea washed over me. I leaned against the tree and threw up. Bob was there instantly with a water bottle and some tissues. "I'm sorry, sir. I shouldn't have." "No," I said, wiping my mouth. "Thank you, Bob. At least now I know the truth." The truth was so monstrous, I wished it were a nightmare. But the pictures in my hand were real. My marriage, the thing I was most proud of, was nothing but an elaborate decade-long fraud. I struggled to my feet and looked at the villa, hearing the faint sounds of laughter drift from its open windows. A part of me wanted to storm in there and demand to know why they would do this to me. But I knew it wasn't the time. "Let's go," I said to Bob. "I need time to think." On the drive back to Denver, fragments of my life with Claire flashed through my mind. Her endless excuses for not wanting children. Her frequent business trips. The way she guarded her phone. Her easy professional chemistry with Ethan. All the details I had ignored now seemed like glaring, brilliant red flags. I had trusted her without question, made her the center of my world. And she had repaid me with a lie that spanned a decade. I parked in front of our house and sat in the car for a long time before I could bring myself to get out. I pushed the door open. The house was empty. Claire wasn't back yet. I stood in the center of the living room, the home we had shared for 10 years, and it felt like a stranger's house. Our wedding portrait hung on the wall, the two of us beaming with happiness. I took the frame down and ran my thumb over Claire's smiling face. That smile once warmed my heart. Now it was a razor blade slicing through my soul. I would wait for her. I would ask her to her face. 03 at 11 o'clock that night. I heard the lock turn. Claire slipped in quietly, trying not to wake me. The living room was dark, save for the moonlight filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows, outlining her silhouette. I sat on the sofa, perfectly still. She didn't see me until she was almost on top of me. "Michael!" She jumped, startled. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" I switched on the table lamp. The warm, yellow light illuminated the space between us. She was wearing a simple beige trench coat, her hair damp from the light rain outside. "How was the trip?" I asked, my voice calmer than I expected. "It was fine," she said, setting down her purse and taking off her earrings. "Did you get some rest this weekend?" "I went to Aspen." Her hand froze midair. Her eyes darted nervously. "Aspen? What were you doing there?" "Visiting some old friends," I said, standing and walking toward her. "Specifically, you and Ethan, and your 10 children." The blood drained from her face. She stumbled back, bumping into the dining table. What are you talking about?" I held up my phone, the gallery of photos open for her to see. "Explain this, Claire, or should I be calling you Mrs. Vance?" She looked at the photos, her lips trembling, unable to form a word. 10 years, I said, my voice tight with rage. 10 whole years. When we got married, you were already pregnant with his child, weren't you? She looked down, and after a long silence, she finally nodded. "Why?" My voice started to shake. "Why marry me while you were still with him? What did I ever do to deserve this?" "You didn't do anything wrong, Michael," she finally said, her voice low. "It was me. I've always been in love with Ethan. Since college." "Then why marry me?" I nearly shouted. "Why destroy my life?" "Because of my family's interests, because you were a suitable match, because—" She looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "Because he was already married back then. His wife was arranged by his uncle from a powerful family. He couldn't leave her." A cold, bitter laugh escaped my lips. "So I was the backup plan? A tool to maintain your respectable life." It might have started that way. Her honesty was more painful than any lie. But later, I really did try to love you. You're a good man, Michael. You were so good to me. So good that you had 10 children with him behind my back. I retorted sarcastically. "Tell me, in all these years, was there ever a single moment you truly loved me?" She opened her mouth, but no answer came. Her silence was more brutal than any confession. "I see," I said, taking a deep breath. "So, is it time for this sham of a marriage to end?" "Michael, answer me." I cut her off. "You want a divorce, don't you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Ethan and I, we want to be together. He's divorced now. We can finally be together out in the open." I finished for her. What a touching love story. "So for the past 10 years, were you two laughing at my stupidity behind my back?" Poor Michael Lawson, completely in the dark, thinking he has a happy marriage. "It wasn't like that," she denied quickly. "We never laughed at you. In fact, Ethan has always felt guilty for deceiving you." "Guilty?" My voice was ice. "So guilty he had 10 kids with my wife. The first one was an accident," she explained in a low voice. "I had already agreed to marry you when I found out I was pregnant. I couldn't just get rid of it. It was her child. And each one after that, they were expressions of our love. Expressions of our love. The words, coming from her mouth, were like a serrated knife twisting in my heart. And me, I stepped closer to her. What was my role in this perfectly crafted life of yours? The ATM? The status symbol? Or just the cover for your decade-long affair? She backed away, a flicker of fear in her eyes. You've changed, Michael. You never used to be like this. I've changed. I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. I'm the one who was kept in the dark for 10 years. The one who was cheated on and betrayed. And you have the nerve to say I've changed. All you ever cared about was your work, your ambition. She suddenly shot back. When was the last time you actually cared about how I felt? You were busy day and night, leaving me alone in this cold, empty house. But Ethan, he understands me. He cares about me. He gave me the warmth and connection you never did. So this is all my fault. I stared at her in disbelief. I worked my ass off to give us a better life. And you use that as an excuse for your betrayal? I don't want to argue anymore, she said, her voice weary. It's over. A divorce is the best thing for both of us. I'll move in with Ethan and, while we're at it, I hope you'll seriously consider my father's proposal to transfer your company shares to him. Shares? The final piece clicked into place. So that was the end game? To take my company, too? It's not just your company, Michael. Her tone became frigid. Without the Sullivan Group's investment, Lawson Construction would be nothing. My father just wants back what's rightfully his. I felt the air leave my lungs. It was all a meticulously designed trap. For 10 years, they hadn't just stolen my love and trust. They wanted to strip me of my life's work. Get out. My voice was low and dangerous. Get out of my house. Now. She paused, then regained her composure. This is my house, too. I have a right to live here until the divorce is finalized. Do you? I sneered. I suggest you take a closer look at our prenup. The infidelity clause states that the unfaithful party can be required to immediately vacate the shared residence. I'm sure that villa in Aspen is more than spacious enough for you. Her face changed. She had clearly forgotten about the prenuptial agreement she had so confidently signed all those years ago, never imagining it could be used against her. You have 30 minutes to pack a bag and leave, I said, turning toward my study. Otherwise, I will make your and Ethan's dirty laundry public. All of it, including the 10 children you had behind my back. I don't think the Sullivan family's reputation could withstand that kind of scandal, do you? She said nothing more, just gave me one last, complicated look before heading upstairs to pack. Half an hour later, she came down with a single suitcase. She paused at the door. Michael, one day you'll understand that some things aren't as simple as right and wrong. I hope you find the happiness you deserve. I don't need your hypocritical wishes, I said coldly. Go on. Your true love is waiting. The door clicked shut, and the house fell silent. I walked to the bar, grabbed a bottle of whiskey, and took a long swallow straight from the bottle. The liquor burned my throat, but couldn't touch the fire of pain in my chest. I picked up the wedding portrait from the coffee table and hurled it against the wall. Glass shattered and sprayed across the floor, just like my broken marriage. 10 years. A 10-year lie. I curled up on the sofa and finally let the tears come. In that moment, I had never felt so alone, so utterly destroyed. 0 for the days that followed were a waking nightmare. I locked myself in the house, ignoring calls and shutting out the world. For a while, I even abandoned my work. Bob came by every day to make sure I was eating, but mostly I just sat numbly by the window, watching the world go on, trying to figure out where my life had gone so wrong. On the 5th morning, the doorbell rang. I assumed it was Bob, but when I opened the door, Ethan Vance was standing there. He was dressed in casual, expensive clothes, looking confident and relaxed. Not at all like a man who had been betraying his best friend for a decade. Long time no see, buddy, he said with a smile, as if we were just old friends catching up. I fought the overwhelming urge to slam my fist into his face. I held back. I wanted to know why he was here. What do you want? I asked coldly. Don't be like that, Michael, he said, walking into my house uninvited, looking around. Place still looks great. You holding up okay? Get to the point. I said, my eyes fixed on him. Or get out. He sighed and sat down on my sofa. I'm here to talk about the company. You know the River North project is critical. The board wants to stabilize the situation as quickly as possible. And he adjusted his collar, The best solution is for you to transfer your controlling stake in Lawson Construction to the Sullivan Group. You'll be compensated fairly, of course. I let out a bitter laugh. Of course. First, you steal my wife, then you try to take my company. It's a perfect plan. Don't put it like that, Michael, he said, shaking his head. Claire was never yours. She's always been mine. His words were a dagger to the heart. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay in control. 10 years ago, when we had our wedding, she was already pregnant with your child, wasn't she? Yes, he admitted without a trace of shame. I was married at the time. I couldn't give her the life she deserved. But luckily, you came along. You were the perfect substitute. Substitute. I repeated the word, the shame and pain tasting like acid in my mouth. Don't get me wrong, you're a good guy, Michael, he said, his tone oozing false sympathy. Claire even tried to love you for a while, but you can't force that kind of thing. And the 10 children? I asked through gritted teeth. You just carried on with your great love story right under my roof for a decade? Well, he smiled, a smug, triumphant look on his face. Having children is a natural expression of love. What Claire and I have is much deeper than you could ever understand. My fists clenched, my nails digging into my palms. I held on to the last thread of my composure. What do you want, Ethan? I want us to resolve this peacefully, he said, his tone shifting to one of seriousness. Claire has filed for divorce. I expect you to cooperate. As for the company, you know as well as I do that without the Sullivan Group's backing, Lawson Construction is finished. And you think I'm just going to roll over? I think you're a smart man, he said, standing and reaching out to pat my shoulder. I flinched away. Think about it, Michael. Why drag this out and destroy everything? It's better to end it with dignity. Just then, the front door opened again, and Claire walked in. She looked more radiant than I had seen her in days, wearing a new dress, her makeup flawless. Ethan, did you talk to him? She asked, completely ignoring my presence. We're just getting to it, honey, Ethan said, walking over and wrapping his arm around her waist. I think Michael's going to see reason. Seeing them together like that, so comfortable and entitled in my home, made me sick to my stomach. Once, this woman was my wife, and this man was my best friend. Now, they stood before me, flaunting their betrayal as if it were a victory. You two really can't wait, can you? I said coldly. The divorce isn't even final, and you're already putting on a public display? Claire glanced at me, her eyes filled with a dismissive pity. Michael, we don't want to hurt you, but things are what they are. We just hope you'll cooperate and let this process go smoothly. Cooperate. I laughed derisively. You have 10 children behind my back, try to steal my company, and you want me to cooperate? The company isn't just yours, Claire's voice hardened. Without my father's money and Ethan's talent, Lawson Construction would have failed years ago. You just happen to be the one taking all the credit. Her words struck me like a physical blow. In 10 years, I never imagined she could say something so cruel. In her mind, I was just an incompetent figurehead, a tool to be discarded. I started to laugh, a quiet, chilling sound. That's funny. 10 years ago, when we were just starting out, who was at that work day and night, hustling for every contract? Who took all the risk to land our first big project? If I remember correctly, Ethan almost quit because he was too scared to fail. Ethan's face darkened. There's no need to bring up the past. What's important now, I cut him off, is that you're not getting a single thing you want. Not the divorce terms you're hoping for, and certainly not my company. You're just humiliating yourself, Claire said coldly. My father won't stand by and do nothing. The Sullivan Group could crush Lawson Construction without a second thought. Then let him try, I said, my voice unwavering. And you can tell your father that I look forward to seeing him in court. Let's see how the Sullivan Group's stock fares when the world finds out his daughter carried on a decade-long affair and had 10 children with another man while married. That should be an interesting headline. Claire's face went pale. She had clearly never expected me to fight back like this. Ethan took a step forward, his voice low and menacing. Michael, don't force our hand. We know everything about you, including some of your less than honorable business tactics from the early days. Are you threatening me? I looked him straight in the eye. If you want to play that game, I'm ready. Don't forget, I also know a few of your secrets. Like how you falsified data on that overseas project a few years back. The tension in the room snapped. Ethan's expression turned venomous, while Claire grabbed his arm, as if to hold him back. "Let's go," Claire said finally, pulling Ethan toward the door. "Michael, you have 3 days to think it over. I hope you make the smart choice." The door slammed shut, and the house was quiet again. But I knew the war had just begun. I picked up my phone and dialed Bob's number. "Give me an appointment with David Lee as soon as possible. And I need you to compile every piece of evidence we have on Ethan Vance and Claire Sullivan." After hanging up, I walked out onto the balcony and took a deep breath of the crisp air. The sky was overcast, threatening rain, but my mind had never been clearer. Yes, I had been hurt. I had been deceived, but I would not be broken. My marriage might be over, but my life was not. If they wanted a war, I would give them one. And they were about to find out that Michael Lawson was not a man to be underestimated. 3 days later, I was sitting in David Lee's office as he laid out my legal position. David was an old friend and the best damn lawyer in the city. "Legally speaking, you're in a very strong position," David said, adjusting his glasses. "The prenup is ironclad. The infidelity clause entitles you to the majority of the shared assets. And the evidence you've collected is more than enough to prove Claire Sullivan's adultery." I nodded. "What about the company's shares?" "That's more complex," he said, flipping through a file. "While the Sullivan Group is a major investor, the original agreement only entitles them to dividends, not a say in management decisions. They can't force you to sell your shares unless you voluntarily agree to it." "Good," I said, a wave of relief washing over me. "I want you to file for divorce immediately, citing adultery. As for the asset division, I don't want a dime from her. I just want to protect my company." David looked at me, surprised. "Are you sure? According to the prenup, you're entitled to a very significant settlement." "I don't want her money," I said, shaking my head. "I just want this over with so I can start rebuilding my life." Walking out of the law firm, the weather was surprisingly beautiful. The sun was bright, a stark contrast to the gloom of the past week. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight on my chest lighten just a little. As I was about to get in my car, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, is this Michael Lawson?" a woman's voice asked. "Speaking. Who is this?" "My name is Rachel Grant. I'm Ethan Vance's ex-wife. I'd like to talk to you." I was taken aback, but agreed to meet. An hour later, I was sitting across from her in a quiet cafe. She was elegant and composed, with an air of intelligence, not at all the bitter, scorned woman I might have imagined. "Thank you for meeting me, Mr. Lawson," she said, extending a hand. "The pleasure's all mine," I said, shaking it. "What can I do for you?" She looked directly at me. "I think we have a common enemy, and therefore a common interest. I've heard what happened to you, and I know that Ethan and Claire are now trying to take your company." "How do you know all this?" I asked, wary. She gave a small smile. "Denver's business community is smaller than you think. News travels fast. Besides, even though Ethan and I are divorced, we still have some financial entanglements to sort out. So you're here to collaborate," she said, pulling a USB drive from her purse. "This contains some information you might find interesting. It's about some of Ethan's less scrupulous activities in his professional life." I took the drive, confused. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because he owes me, and I intend to collect." Her gaze hardened. "He cheated on me for years with your wife, then forced me into an unfair divorce settlement. I want what's mine." I looked at the small piece of plastic in my hand. "This might be useful, but I'm not sure what I can do for you." "It's simple," she said, sipping her coffee. "When you use this information against them, I want my interests taken into account. Specifically, I want the assets he hid from me during our divorce." I thought for a moment, then nodded. "Deal. If this data is as valuable as you say, I'll make sure you get what you're owed." After leaving the cafe, I immediately gave the USB drive to Bob and had him get a team to analyze its contents. That evening, he came to my house with a preliminary report. "Mr. Lawson, this is a gold mine," Bob said, his voice filled with excitement. "It's all here. Detailed records of kickbacks from contractors, evidence of structural data being falsified on several major projects. If this is all true, it's enough to get him disbarred and possibly face criminal charges." I read through the report, a plan forming in my mind. "I want you to verify every single claim on this drive, and give me a meeting with Mr. Sullivan. It's time he and I had to talk." 3 days later, I was at the Sullivan family estate. Claire's father, a titan of industry I had once looked up to, seemed to have aged a decade since I last saw him. His eyes were weary. "Michael, it's been a while," he said, gesturing for me to sit. "I hear you've run into some trouble." "It's more than trouble, sir," I said directly. "Your daughter and my business partner betrayed me for 10 years and are now trying to steal my company. I need to know, is this on your authority?" Mr. Sullivan was silent for a long moment before letting out a heavy sigh. "Not entirely. Claire did come to me, asking for my help in forcing a takeover of Lawson Construction. I refused." "Why?" I was genuinely surprised. "Because regardless of what has happened, you were my son-in-law. I watched you build that company from the ground up." His expression softened. "I do not approve of what Claire has done. Not in her marriage, and not in her business dealings." A sliver of hope appeared. "So the Sullivan Group won't support a hostile takeover?" "I will not support it," he clarified. "But this is a family company. Claire is a major shareholder. If she convinces the other board members—" "I understand," I said, pulling out the file Bob had prepared. "In that case, I think you need to see this." He took the file and began to read. As he turned the pages, his expression grew increasingly grim. Finally, he looked up, his eyes wide with shock and anger. "Is this true?" "Every word has been verified," I confirmed. "Ethan Vance is not just corrupt. He's a liability. If the Sullivan Group formally partners with a man like that, and this information gets out, the fallout for your company would be catastrophic." Mr. Sullivan stared into the distance for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "I see. Thank you for your candor, Michael. I will handle this internally. I can assure you the Sullivan Group will not be involved in any move against Lawson Construction." Leaving the Sullivan estate, I felt a profound sense of relief. I had won a major battle on the business front, but I knew the personal war was far from over. Sure enough, that night, my doorbell rang. It was Ethan, his face a mask of fury. "What did you say to him?" he demanded, storming past me. Why did Mr. Sullivan suddenly pull his support for the acquisition? I leaned against the doorframe, a cold smile on my face. "Looks like your perfect plan hit a snag, old friend." "You think this is over?" he snarled, stepping toward me. "You'll never win. Claire is still mine. You'll never have her back." Just then, Claire herself appeared behind him. She looked pale and stressed, but her eyes were still full of defiance. "Michael, stop this pointless struggle. Even without my father's help, there are other ways." "Are there?" I asked calmly. "Well, you better figure them out fast, because you're running out of time." "What does that mean?" Ethan asked, his eyes narrowing. I pulled out my phone and showed them a draft of a press release. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m., a full report on the professional and ethical conduct of architect Ethan Vance is scheduled to be sent to every major news outlet in the state. I think you'll find you have much bigger problems to deal with then." The color drained from Ethan's face. He lunged for my phone, but I was too quick for him. "You can't do that," he yelled, his voice shaking. "That will destroy my career. The way you destroyed my marriage." I shot back, my voice like ice. "Seems fair to me." Claire stepped between us, glaring at me. "You become so vicious. I don't even know who you are anymore." "The feeling is mutual," I replied evenly. For 10 years, I thought I was married to a loving wife, only to find out she was having children with another man behind my back. When it comes to not knowing someone, I think I have you beat. Ethan suddenly rushed at me, but I shoved him back hard. He stumbled, nearly falling. "Calm down, Ethan," I said mockingly. "Violence won't solve your problems, Dot, but I can offer you a choice." "What choice?" Claire asked, her guard up. "It's simple," I said, looking from one to the other. "I have divorce papers ready." Claire signs them, walks away with nothing, as per the prenup. You both drop any and all attempts to gain control of Lawson Construction. If you agree, I'll consider holding off on releasing my report on Ethan. They looked at each other. After a tense moment, Ethan gave a sharp nod. "Fine. We agree. But you have to guarantee that information never sees the light of day." "As long as you hold up your end of the bargain," I said. Then I turned to Claire. "My lawyer's office. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late." As I watched them retreat, I closed the door and let out a long, shuddering breath. I hadn't won, not really, but I hadn't lost everything. And for now, that was enough. The divorce was finalized the next morning. Claire was silent the entire time, her movements mechanical as she signed the papers. As she stood to leave, I stopped her. "Claire," I asked the question that had been haunting me. "In all those 10 years, was there ever a single moment you were truly in love with me?" She looked back at me, her eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't decipher. She said nothing, then turned and walked out my life. And just like that, with the stroke of a pen, my 10-year marriage was over. 06. Life after the divorce was quieter than I expected. I threw myself back into my work, restructuring loss and construction strategy, pouring all my energy into the company to fill the void in my heart. The business slowly recovered, we landed new projects, and our profits began to climb. But I knew I hadn't truly moved on. Every night, returning to that big, empty house, the memories would flood back. I knew I needed a change. A month later, I made a decision. I would leave Denver, this city of ghosts, and move to San Diego to open a new branch and expand our market. It was a move the company had been considering for years. Now seemed like the perfect time. The night before I left, I went back to the house one last time. Everything was covered in white dust sheets, making the space feel vast and lonely. I stood in the living room for a long time, the echoes of the past swirling around me. Finally, I took the wedding ring I had been carrying in my pocket, the custom band with our names and wedding date engraved inside. I placed it on the dining room table, turned, and walked out without looking back. San Diego was even more beautiful than I remembered. The deep blue of the Pacific, the bright, warm sun, and the vibrant energy of the city made me feel lighter than I had in years. I rented a condo overlooking the ocean where I could watch the sunrise every morning. The new office quickly found its footing. I led my new team in securing several major urban renewal projects, and while the work was demanding, it was fulfilling. About 3 months in, I was in my office reviewing blueprints when my phone rang with a familiar number. It was Claire. It was the first time she had called since the divorce. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello, Claire." I kept my voice neutral. "Michael, where are you?" She sounded anxious. "I went by the house to pick up a few last things, and it's completely empty. I moved to San Diego. The company opened a new branch here." I replied curtly. "Is there something you need?" There was a pause on the other end. "No, nothing specific," she said softly. I want to make sure you were doing okay." "I'm fine. Thanks for asking," I said. "How are you and Ethan? Everything going well?" Another silence. Finally, she said, "Fina, the kids miss you." That stopped me cold. The kids miss me? They didn't even know me. I had never even met them. "Claire, don't," I said, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. "We're divorced. There's no need to torture each other like this." "I know, Her voice caught. "Never mind. I hope everything goes well for you in San Diego." After she hung up, I stood at my office window, looking out at the ocean, my emotions a tangled mess. Whatever her reasons for calling, I knew I had to keep moving forward. I focused on work and on myself. I started accepting social invitations, making new friends. Among them was an interior designer named Chloe Davis. Chloe was bright, confident, and incredibly talented. We first met collaborating on a luxury hotel project, and I was immediately impressed by her creativity and professionalism. Slowly, our professional relationship grew into a personal friendship. We started spending more time together outside of work. Unlike Claire, Chloe was direct and genuine, never hiding what she thought or felt. She knew about my past and gave me the space I needed to heal without pressure. 6 months after I moved to San Diego, at a party celebrating the completion of her hotel project, Chloe told me how she felt. We were standing on the hotel's rooftop terrace, the glittering city skyline behind us. "Michael, I'm sure you've noticed," she said, looking me straight in the eye. "I like you, and not just as a friend." I was a little surprised, but not uncomfortable. "Chloe, I value our friendship more than I can say, but I'm not sure I'm ready for a new relationship." "I get it," she smiled warmly. "I just wanted you to know how I feel. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it." Her honesty and understanding touched me. In that moment, I realized that maybe it was time to give myself a chance to start over. "Thank you," I said, taking her hand. "Can you give me a little time?" She nodded, her eyes full of warmth and hope. Later that night, I sat on my balcony, looking at the stars, thinking about my life. The past had left its scars, but it didn't have to be a cage. It was time to let go. I asked Chloe to dinner, and told her I was ready to try. We agreed to take it slow, to give our relationship time to grow naturally. The months that followed were some of the happiest I'd had in a long time. Chloe was smart, independent, and full of life. Being with her was easy and joyful. I started looking forward to each day, to sharing the small moments with her. 3 months later, on a perfect Sunday, we went for a picnic on a beach. "Michael," Chloe said, leaning her head on my shoulder, "have you thought about our future?" I looked out at the horizon. Honestly, for a long time, I was scared of that word. But being with you, you made me believe the future can be a good thing again. She smiled. "So, would you be willing to build that future with me?" I turned to her, my heart full. "Yes," I said, "I would." Just then my phone rang. It was Bob. "Sir, we have a problem." His voice was tense. "Ethan Vance is here at the office, demanding to see you. He's not stable, sir. I think he's been drinking." I frowned. "How did he find the office?" "I don't know, but he's making a scene. Says he'll tear the place apart if he doesn't see you." "I'm on my way." I hung up and turned to Chloe. "I'm so sorry. An emergency at work. I have to go." "It's okay," she said, already packing up. "I'm coming with you." On the drive, I quickly explained everything about Ethan and Claire. She listened silently, then took my hand, her grip firm and supportive. "Whatever happens, I'm on your side," she said. When we arrived, Ethan was in the lobby, shouting. He looked like a wreck, disheveled, haggard, and reeking of alcohol. "Lawson," he roared when he saw me, stumbling forward. "You finally decided to show your face." I waved the security guard back. "What do you want, Ethan?" "What do I want?" he spat. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Because of you, the ethics board revoked my license. I lost my position at the firm. Everyone knows. They all think I'm a fraud, a cheat." "I didn't report you, Ethan," I said calmly. "We had a deal. As long as you left my company alone, I wouldn't release that information." "Then who did?" His eyes were bloodshot with rage. "Who else had that file but you?" A thought clicked. Maybe it was your ex-wife, Rachel. She's the one who gave it to me, after all. Ethan froze, then let out a horrifying, broken laugh. "Rachel, so she finally got her revenge. You brought this on yourself," I said coldly. "Now, I need you to leave my office, or I'm calling the police." He swayed on his feet, a vicious glint in his eye. "You think it's over? You took everything from me. I'll make you feel the same way. Claire will never come back to you. She's mine. Only mine." His eyes then fell on Chloe, standing beside me. "Oh, and what's this? Found a replacement already? Didn't waste any time, did you, Michael?" "This has nothing to do with you," I said, stepping in front of Chloe. "We're done here. Leave." "Done," he sneered. "No, this is just the beginning." He turned and stumbled out of the building. Chloe and I looked at each other, a shared sense of dread passing between us. "He seems really unstable," she said quietly. "Do you think he'll do something?" "I don't know," I said, "but we need to be careful. Bob, I want you to increase security at the office and at my home, effective immediately." That night, after I took Chloe home, I had just walked into my condo when my phone rang. It was Claire. "Michael, I'm so sorry. I'm the one who told Ethan where your office was," she said, her voice filled with regret. "I had no idea he would cause a scene like that. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, "but I need you to control him. I don't want him anywhere near my life again." "I know, I will," she paused. "I heard. You have a new girlfriend." I didn't answer. "Michael," she continued into the silence. "Ethan and we broke up." The news surprised me, but my tone remained cool. "Why?" "A lot of reasons," she said, sounding exhausted. "After he lost his job, he became volatile. The drinking, the yelling. He started taking it out on me and the children. And what? And I found out he was cheating on me. With multiple women," she said with a bitter laugh. "Ironic, isn't it? I betrayed you for him, only to have him betray me." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt a sliver of pity for her, but another part felt this was simply karma. "I'm sorry to hear that," was all I could manage. "I hope you and the children are okay." "Michael, I was thinking—" She hesitated. "Could we meet? There are some things I need to tell you in person." My guard went up immediately. "What things?" "About our past. About why I made the choices I did. I think you deserve to know the whole truth." I considered it. As much as I wanted to move on, there were still unanswered questions that haunted me. Maybe this was my chance for real closure. "All right, next Wednesday, 3 p.m. Blue Ocean Cafe in La Jolla, I said. I have 1 hour. Thank you, Michael. I'll be there. After hanging up, I sat on the sofa, my mind racing. Why did she want to meet now? What did she mean by the whole truth? Was she trying to get back into my life? And if she was, what would I do? Most importantly, how was I going to tell Chloe? I decided on honesty. The next morning, I met her for breakfast. Chloe, there's something I need to tell you, I said, looking her in the eye. Claire called me last night. She and Ethan broke up, and she wants to meet to talk. Her expression was a mixture of emotions, but she kept her voice even. And you said yes? I did. Next Wednesday, I took her hand. I feel like I need to hear her out to understand everything, so I can finally close that chapter for good. For us. She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. I understand. You need this. You need answers. She squeezed my hand. But Michael, please remember, whatever she says, don't let the past pull you back in. I held her hand tightly. I promise. This is just a conversation. It changes nothing between us. My heart is with you now. She smiled, her eyes full of trust. In that moment, I knew how incredibly lucky I was to have found her. 07 on Wednesday, I arrived at the cafe early and chose a table by the window. At exactly 3 o'clock, Claire walked in. She wore a simple white dress and looked thinner than I'd ever seen her, with dark circles under her pale eyes. Thank you for coming, Michael, she said, sitting opposite me. You don't look well, I observed. She gave a weak, bitter smile. It's been a difficult time. After we ordered, I got straight to the point. What did you want to talk about? She took a deep breath. First, I want to apologize. I know it's not enough, but I am truly, deeply sorry for the pain I caused you. I stared at her, my face impassive. Is that all? An apology? No. She shook her head. I want you to know the real truth. About me and Ethan. About the children. I think I know the truth, I said coldly. You were in love with him. You had an affair for 10 years, and you had his children. What else is there? A lot, she said, looking down at her hands. For example, when I first married you, it was for practical reasons. But after a while, I genuinely tried to love you. For a time, I even thought I did. Clearly not enough. I know. I was weak, she confessed. Every time I tried to be faithful, Ethan would pull me back in. He had this power over me. He made me feel like I couldn't think for myself. I scoffed. That's your excuse? You were under his spell? It sounds pathetic, I know. Tears welled in her eyes. But our relationship wasn't what you imagine. He was controlling, manipulative. He made me believe I was nothing without him. It's only now that I see him for who he really is. Meaning, he never loved me. Her voice trembled. I was just one of many. Even while he was with me, he had other women. And those children, they aren't all mine. The confession hit me like a physical blow. What? Only the first 2 are mine, she said, the words barely a whisper. The other 8, they are his children with other women. He brought them to the villa and made everyone, including me, pretend they were ours to maintain this image of a large, perfect family. I stared at her, stunned into silence. The truth was sicker and more twisted than anything I could have imagined. Why are you telling me this now? I finally asked. Because I'm finally free of him, she said, tears streaming down her face. When his career imploded, when he lost everything, his true colors came out. He became abusive to me and the children. I couldn't take it anymore. I felt a wave of disgust, not just at her, but at the entire sordid mess. Michael, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, she continued. But I need you to know that I was a victim too. Ethan used my feelings for him to get what he wanted. What did he want? Money, she said simply. My father's money. Your company. He planned it all from the beginning. I was his way into the Sullivan Group, and you were the rival he wanted to destroy. Hearing it all laid out, I felt a flicker of pity. As unforgivable as her actions were, it seemed she had also been a pawn in Ethan's sick game. Michael, she looked up, a desperate hope in her eyes. I know this is insane, but is there any chance for us to start over? I was stunned. Start over? You mean get back together? Yes, she nodded eagerly. I know how much I messed up, but I realize now what I lost. You were a good husband, Michael. If you give me one more chance, I swear I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. She reached across the table for my hand, but I pulled it back. Claire, I said, my voice gentle but firm. Some things can't be undone. Our marriage is over. I've moved on. I have a new life now. It's that woman, isn't it? Her voice grew sharp. You're in love with her? Yes, I answered honestly. I love Chloe. She's helped me learn how to trust again. The hope in Claire's eyes died. So quickly? You've forgotten me already. It's not about forgetting. It's about letting go, I said. I've finally found happiness again after all that pain. I'm not going back. But what about our 10 years? She sobbed. All those memories, do they mean nothing? They mean nothing I can trust, I said, looking her in the eye. Every happy memory is tainted by the knowledge that you were living a double life. You can't possibly understand what that feels like. Michael, please, she begged. The best thing you can do for me is to let me go and build your own life, I said, standing up. Goodbye, Claire. I do hope you find peace someday, but it won't be with me. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. So that's it? 10 years, and there's nothing left. I looked at her tear-streaked face and felt nothing. No anger, no love, just a vast, quiet emptiness where a marriage used to be. No, there's nothing left. Walking out of the cafe and into the bright California sun, I felt like a great weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Her confession didn't change what she did, but it closed the final door on the past. Now, my future was waiting. When I got back to the office, Chloe was there. The sight of her smile erased the last of the afternoon shadows. How did it go? She asked. It's over, I said, pulling her into a hug. She want to get back together? I said no. I felt her tense slightly. She did. Yes, I said, pulling back to look at her. But that's impossible, because I have you, and you are better than any happiness I could have imagined. Her eyes lit up, but a flicker of doubt remained. Are you sure? After 10 years of marriage. Those 10 years are over, I said firmly. My future is with you. As if on cue, my phone rang. It was Bob. Sir, it's happening again. Vance is back at the office. He's going crazy. Security can't hold him. I'm on my way, I said. I turned to Chloe. He's back. Stay here. I'll handle it. No, she said, her expression resolute. I'm not letting you face him alone. We rushed to the lobby to find Ethan in a state of total breakdown. He was screaming, throwing things, his eyes wild. Lawson, he bellowed when he saw me. Ethan, what are you doing? I asked, keeping my voice level. What am I doing? He laughed manically. I came to see the man who stole my life. You did this to yourself, Ethan. Liar, he screamed. Why did you meet with her? Were you two plotting behind my back? You must have been following her. We're not plotting anything, I said. Now get out of my building before I call the cops. Cops? He howled with laughter. I'm not afraid of the cops. I have nothing left to lose. With that, he pulled a small knife from his pocket and lunged at me. I shoved Chloe behind me, just as security tackled him from behind, pinning him to the ground. This isn't over, Lawson, he screamed as they cuffed him. You'll pay for this. Call the police, I said calmly to the head of security. Later that night, Chloe and I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights. Were you scared? She asked quietly. When he pulled out the knife, I shook my head. Stranly? No. After the betrayal I went through, a knife seems almost simple. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Are you really over it? Over her? Yes, I said, looking at the stars. Seeing her today, hearing the whole twisted story, I didn't feel pain. I just felt closure. I moved on. She smiled up at me. So, are you ready for our new life to begin? I turned to her, my heart feeling clear and certain for the first time in a very long time. More than ready. In fact, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box I had bought on my way back from the cafe that afternoon. Chloe, I said, getting down on one knee and opening the box to reveal a diamond ring. Will you marry me? Tears welled in her eyes as she covered her mouth with her hand. Oh, Michael, this is so sudden. I know it hasn't been long, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But you gave me my life back. You taught me how to love again. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy. Will you be my wife? Yes, she cried, laughing through her tears. Yes, Michael, 1,000 times yes. As I slid the ring onto her finger and we kissed, all the pain and chaos of the past year melted away. All that was left was peace and the promise of a beautiful future. 08, we decided on a small wedding, just close friends and family, at a beautiful villa overlooking the ocean in 3 months' time. The planning was joyful and easy, a world away from the darkness I had left behind. Ethan was sentenced to a short prison term for assault. After Claire's visit to the cafe, I didn't hear from her again. I heard through the grapevine that she had taken her 2 children and moved back into her father's estate, living a quiet, secluded life. A week before the wedding, we were at the venue finalizing details. "I can't wait to see you in your dress," I whispered to Chloe, my arms wrapped around her waist. "Just one more week," she laughed. Just then, my phone rang. It was Bob. "Sir, Miss Sullivan is here. She says she needs to see you." I frowned. "Claire, how did she even find me here?" "She said your father told her the location." "She seems distressed, sir, but she's insisting." I looked at Chloe, who simply nodded. "It's okay. Go." 10 minutes later, Claire appeared on the terrace. She was wearing a simple trench coat and looked even thinner and more fragile than before. "Michael," she said, stopping a few feet away. "And, Ms. Davis, thank you for seeing me. You know we're getting married?" I asked. "Yes. My father told me." She gave a sad smile. "He said he's never seen you look so happy." She held out a small, familiar box. "This is yours. I wanted to return it before it was too late." I opened it. Inside was my old wedding ring. Seeing it now sparked nothing in me. No anger, no sadness. It was like looking at an artifact from another life. "Why now?" I asked. "Because I couldn't let go," she said, her voice trembling. "Even after everything, a part of me hoped you'd come back. But when I heard you were getting married, I knew. It's time to finally let you go." She turned to Chloe. "Please, take good care of him. He's a good man." "I will," Chloe said gently. "I should go," Claire said, backing away. "I wish you both a lifetime of happiness." "Wait," I said, holding the box out to her. "You keep it, or throw it away. I don't need it anymore. It's time for you to start over, too." A flicker of pain crossed her face. "You're right," she whispered, taking the box. "I'll try." She gave me one last look, then turned and walked away. The day of the wedding was perfect. The sun was shining, a gentle breeze was blowing off the ocean. As I stood at the altar, waiting for Chloe, I felt a profound sense of peace. Then the music started, and Chloe appeared at the end of the aisle on her father's arm. She was radiant. In that moment, I knew that every painful step I had taken had been leading me right here, to her. But as she reached the front, a commotion broke out. I turned to see Claire standing at the back of the guests, her face pale and wild-eyed. "Stop!" she screamed, her voice cracking. "This wedding can't happen." A shocked silence fell over the crowd. "Claire, what are you doing?" I asked in disbelief. She stumbled forward, holding up my old wedding ring. "You can't marry her, Michael. What about us? What about our 10 years? "Claire, please," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're divorced. You told me you were happy for me." "I lied," she shrieked. "How could I be happy? Don't you remember your vows? 'Till death do us part." The guests were murmuring, a horrified tension filling the air. Chloe squeezed my hand, her expression firm. "That's enough," I said, my voice hard as steel. "Leave now. Don't ruin this day." "No." She fell to her knees, sobbing. "Michael, please give me another chance. I know I was wrong, but I love you. I was lost, but now I see clearly. It's always been you." I walked over to her. "Claire, get up. Our marriage is over. I've moved on. Please, let yourself move on, too." "I can't," she cried, looking up at me with desperate eyes. Chloe stepped forward. "Miss Sullivan, please. Respect his decision." Claire's eyes snapped to Chloe, and a chilling laugh escaped her lips. You stole him from me. You stole my life." "No," I said, my voice calm but absolute. "You gave it away when you chose to betray me." I turned to the guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. We need to pause for a moment." I motioned for Bob and security. As they moved to escort her out, she began to struggle wildly. "Michael, don't do this. 10 years. Does it mean nothing?" I looked at her, and all I felt was a deep, profound pity. "It means that for 10 years, you made a choice. And now, I'm making mine. Please respect that." Her struggling stopped. Her eyes went vacant. "So there's no hope?" "No," I said softly. "I have my wife now. Let go, Claire. For your own sake." As security gently lifted her to her feet, she suddenly lunged, pulling a small knife from her purse and rushing toward Chloe. "If I can't have you, no one can." Instinctively, I threw myself in front of Chloe. Security reacted instantly, tackling Claire and disarming her before she could reach us. The crowd gasped in horror. "You're insane," I yelled, my heart pounding. Claire, pinned to the ground, was screaming, "I hate you. You'll regret this, Michael. You'll regret throwing me away." The police arrived and took her away. The beautiful ceremony had been shattered by a moment of madness. "Do you want to stop?" Chloe asked, her voice shaking. "We can do this another day." "No," I said, taking her hands. "I'm not letting the past win. Today is our day." And so we got married. As we exchanged our vows, a sense of absolute certainty washed over me. The chaos faded, the past dissolved. All that mattered was the woman standing before me, and the future we were about to build together. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the applause that erupted felt like a triumphant cheer, a final victory over the shadows. 09, after a long, peaceful honeymoon on a remote island, we returned to San Diego and settled into our new life. Lawson Construction thrived, and Chloe's design studio became one of the most sought after in the city. We bought a house by the sea, and life was quiet, happy, and full. It was everything I had ever wanted. I learned from Mr. Sullivan that Claire had been committed to a psychiatric hospital, diagnosed with severe depression and borderline personality disorder. I felt a distant sadness for her, but I knew her fate was the result of her own choices. 6 months after our wedding, Bob called me with grim news. "Sir, it's about Mr. Vance. He was released from prison. He went to visit Ms. Sullivan at the hospital." "Sir, they're both gone." My coffee cup clattered in its saucer. "What do you mean?" "The police report says Ms. Sullivan smuggled a knife into a visit. She stabbed Mr. Vance, and then she took her own life." A heavy silence filled our sunny kitchen. For all the pain she had caused, hearing of such a tragic end was horrifying. "Did she leave anything?" I asked. "A letter, sir, for you. Bob brought it over that afternoon." In her familiar handwriting, Claire explained her final moments with a chilling calm. She apologized for crashing the wedding, admitting she had finally realized she could never escape her obsession with Ethan, a love she knew was poison. "By the time you read this," the letter concluded, "I will be gone. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I only want you to know that for a brief time, I truly did love you. Be happy with Chloe. You deserve it." I folded the letter and put it away. Chloe came and sat beside me, taking my hand. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I nodded. "I am. I was just thinking about how different choices can lead to such different places." "She made her choices," Chloe said gently. "And so did you." "Yes," I said, looking out the window at the bright, endless ocean. "I did." A year later, on our first anniversary, Chloe gave me a gift. It was a positive pregnancy test. "Boy or girl?" she whispered, curled up against me that night. "Yes," I said, my hand resting on her stomach, a feeling of pure, unadulterated joy filling my heart. "As long as it's ours, and it's healthy, it's all I could ever ask for." In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that the ghosts of the past were finally gone, and my future was nothing but light. The end.